Because I was worried all week. SB, right? Is that what we're
Yeah.
calling you? Yeah, yeah. So SB, uh, is this a troll? I was worried you were gonna pop in and go, fuck you guys. You started the show for no reason.
No, I wouldn't. I support your guys' show. I was shaking and almost in tears when I thought you guys were going to break up. Airing your dirty laundry on the internet. I'm like, oh my god, these guys are going to break up before we can get to the debate. And and I thought I was going to have to face JF on his channel, which is way more serious. So then I'd have had to been way more serious. But I'm not trolling. I can lay it out for you right now. It's like the most basic flat Earth stuff is like water doesn't stick to the outside of a fucking spinning ball, man. It just doesn't. We can't demonstrate that anywhere with the physics of water where we are here on Earth. It just the physics of water don't act that way. Okay,
All
so
right.
that's
So
nonsense. Go
I'd
ahead, go
like
ahead, Jay.
to let's start with some questions because I've seen many flat earther movement and it's important to locate you where you are in there. So, do you deny the theory of gravity as we know it right now?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay. So what is it that makes stuff fall on Earth?
Well, if the Earth is just an extended flat plane, then all we really need is density or weight and buoyancy. That's so. How does tell me this, Jeff? How does gravity? It holds the water to the outside of a spinning ball, and it keeps us from flying away, but it doesn't pull down the particles of smoke or a butterfly or a bumblebee. So how does that make sense?
Actually, it does pull them down. It just pulls them down. It doesn't pull them as down as it pulls the water, simply because the water is more dense. Now, so you mentioned density and buoyancy. I'm not even sure what that means. So what is it that makes an apple fall to the ground?
Well, just the fact that the apple has more weight and mass than the air.
Okay, but why is having more weight directing you toward the ground, toward the flat earth?
Well, because that's all. Everything is just flat. There's only up and down. What goes up must come down is a true statement. The only reason they invented and came up with the idea of gravity is because they needed something to support the idea that we're all somehow standing on a magical ball that spins through space and flies. It's spinning at 1,000 miles an hour at the equator, and then it's hurling through space around the sun. How fast? I don't even remember. 160,000 miles an hour. So
Okay,
if you
but
take all that away and you just have a flat extended plane, then up is up and down is down.
okay, up is up and down is down. Now that doesn't address the question because in any direction that we push the apple in, it has a weight. We can measure that. The apple has a certain weight, and if you have a more weight, a heavier object, it will take more energy to push it on the side, to push it up, to push it down. A more heavy object is harder to push. There is still the question, why is the direction down different in that there seems to be something accelerating objects toward the ground at all times? What is that force which differentiates the direction down on Earth as opposed to the direction left, up, and right?
Uh, I'm not sure if I understand how to answer your question, Jeff. I'm gonna go ahead.
Look at this finger. I can push it to the right. I can push it to the left. I can push it up. I can push it down. I can move in three-dimensional space. However, no one would deny that if I have some sort of an object, this object, if I let it go, it falls down. There's something about down that's not the same thing as opposed to left, right, up, and all of the other direction. There's something absolutely different about down. It seems to be pulling objects. What is creating that?
Oh, we don't. They made up a special word for it. They call it gravity, but it's no different than weight. You can call it gravity, but gravity is the word that they use to explain every every unexplainable thing that they have about their spinning ball model of the Earth, this whole heliocentric model. Gravity is the excuse. Okay, so if we take an egg and put it in a glass of water, it sinks to the bottom of the glass of water. If you add salt and mix it to the water, then the egg floats. So when it was just regular tap water, gravity is acting on the egg. When you add salt to the water, now gravity is neutralized by the salt and stops pulling it down. It's just
Absolutely.
buoyancy.
Gravity is gravity, or what you say we called gravity for the need of a name. I agree with you there. We gave gravity as a name to that phenomenon, and it could have been another name. But you don't deny that the phenomenon exists. You did see the knife falling from my hand.
Oh, there's definitely a phenomenon that everything wants to fall towards the ground.
Okay.
I just don't
and
agree
the-
with the magical properties that go with it sticking us to the outside of a spinning ball.
All right, so the Flat Earth Society to that answers that we are living on a flat Earth that is being accelerated up by 9.8 meter per second square. Do you adhere to that theory?
Absolutely not. No, I think the Flat Earth Society is an intentional bring out of a controlled. Like they'll put some things in there that might make you think or might make you consider that oh, hey, there is no curvature, or but then they throw all this nonsense in there. And I think actually that it's even bigger than that. But the Flat Earth Society has been there for many years as kind of a mockery to make people think, geez, that's stupid that anyone would imagine that we're still on a flat plane.
All right, so those people who invented the name gravity, they were just looking for patching what they didn't understand. And now the Flat Earth Society, who explains the gravity phenomenon by an accelerated Earth toward us, is also some sort of controlled opposition. Is that correct?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay. Now you know, you are different from the Flat Earth Society. You're the real thing. And you still haven't explained how is it that things fall on the ground. Your answer to this is things fall on the ground because things go up and things go down. Well, that's a repeat of the question. It's not an explanation. Current science does explain why things fall to the ground, and you can disagree with the explanation, and based on your disagreement I could argue with you, but right now you don't have an alternative explanation. Current science says things are attracted to stuff, things that have mass are attracted to stuff that is heavy, to places of space-time where there is matter. And it seems to be true on my knife, it seems to be true on my body, and it seems to be true on the sun and the earth and the moon and any spherical object. Why are things accelerating toward masses?
I can hear you laughing at me, Andy.
No, I'm not.
Sitting there
I'm,
thinking-
I'm loving this. I'm loving this. Sorry. No, look. I'm having a great time. Go ahead, dude.
No, I feel like I did give you an answer, Jay. If the answer was that weight, buoyancy, or mass are good enough explanations, because up and down exist without that. You need things to pull towards the center if you're on a sphere. You don't need them to pull towards the center if you're not on a sphere. If you're on an extended flat plane, then that's what was the explanation before they came out with gravity and Newton watched an apple fall and started to speculate. Then the explanation was what? It was that things had weight, so they go down. Just the same, I'd go back to the egg example I gave you. So you're saying that when we add salt to the water, then that neutralizes the effect of gravity, and now the egg can float.
No, I'm not saying that it neutralizes. I'm saying the gravity is still operating. Gravity, if you want, on things that have different density, it acts as a sort of sorter. And that's the reason why oil, if you mix it with water, one of them will be lighter and it will go at the top, and one of them will be heavier, it will go at the bottom. Or you can even separate any sort of mixes. You can actually put an old animal into, you can put it in a mixer and separate all the parts with a machine that spins. And as it spins faster and faster, it will divide the molecules that are very heavy, the molecules that are average heavy, and the molecules that are light, and you will see separations. This is what you see in any system that has gravity and that spins, spinning being a kind of approximation of what gravity does also, because it creates a centrifugal forces toward the middle. And the fact that you can raise the density of water with salt is not a demonstration that gravity doesn't exist. It's precisely, it's a demonstration that the force acting on these masses is density dependent. It depends on the amount of matter.
Yeah, I understand, and I still think that gravity. If you want to use gravity just as something that pulls straight down, sure, but it doesn't pull
Okay.
everything towards the center. I mean, if you want to still use the word gravity, I'm glad to use it. I just would see it as a word being defined as existing within a flat plane, as opposed to a spherical, spinning, flying Earth.
All right, I'm very glad we got there. That's where I wanted to bring you. So you recognize that there is a force that pushes things toward the flat earth.
Certainly, yeah. I mean, there's if I knock the mic off the stand, it's gonna fall.
All right.
So
Now, do you have any physical explanation for that force?
no, I thought we just agreed we were gonna call it gravity, for lack of a better
No,
word.
no, no.
Like I said,
We've agreed on the label. Now I'm asking you, what are the physical phenomena creating that force? Is it hidden little leprechaun that are just invisible and they're pulling stuff downward because that's where they like stuff? Is it that there's a bend in the space-time around the flat Earth? How do you explain the fact that things are headed toward the flat Earth?
well, I would explain it as a perturbation in the magnetic field. It's an electromagnetic phenomenon. I mean, everything that we encounter is an electromagnetic phenomenon. So,
All right.
to,
Why is the electromagnetic phenomenon headed toward the soil?
I don't think we have answers for why. We can't say why. We experience it, we see it, we know it's true, but why is a mystery.
Have you ever been beside a big magnet?
Yes.
Did it push you?
No.
So you're not magnetically charged. You don't react to the magnetic field. You're not being pushed by magnets. Why are you falling toward the flat Earth?
No, I'm saying that the entire system is an electromagnetic system. I'm not talking about just the effect that you would have of a magnet in an environment where there's, say, another something that it repels or attracts, another magnet or a piece of metal or something. Saying that
But
everything we experience is
if you're gonna explain
electromagnetic.
what we agreed we were calling gravity with your magnetic theory, it needs to be the case that those things that fall, everything that we see falling, including your own body, the microphone, all of these things will need to be reacting to magnets. If they don't, that means that you cannot explain the gravity on these particular objects.
Well, I don't think anyone can explain gravity. It's still just a theory, and I know as a scientist that you understand the difference between like a crappy theory and a reasonably vetted theory. I know that, but it's still just a theory. They don't have a plain simple answer or explanation for gravity, or
Well,
they'd stop
it
calling it a
depends.
theory and call it a law.
It depends on what we're talking about. You're right. Ultimately, we are missing some elements on explaining gravity, but we have equations and we can compare these equations into how good they explain the phenomenon. Now, any equation that would involve a magnetic force pushing people to the ground, these things would require that people are affected by magnet. It would require that when I go to the hospital where we had a big brain scanner and where we were scanning people's brain using magnets, enormous magnets that cost millions of dollars, we would have smashed their brains with these magnets. Or we would have created gravitational effect that would have ripped them apart physically if they were magnetically charged, but they're not.
Oh no, I think you're misunderstanding my explanation. I'm not saying that I understand it. I'd say that the closest I could come to give you an explanation is that I believe it has something to do with the fact that we live in an electromagnetic universe or an electromagnetic world. I know people.
May I ask one question here?
Yeah, go ahead, Andy.
Yeah. Okay, so your main point of contention was how could things on the globe, stay down, right? Like stay on the ground, basically. How does water stay in the ground if it's a sphere? But if you're talking about the flat Earth having some sort of force that pushes things down and keeps things down, then couldn't that force be applied to a globe? 110 IQ, by the way.
Yeah, I
Very
saw
good.
that. That was a good show, you guys. By the way,
Thanks.
that was good.
Yeah, thanks, man.
That was fun.
Appreciate it. Yeah.
I'm glad you feel better, Andy. I know you were afraid you were going to be like 79. So
Oh,
at least you're up
dude,
to
I
10.
was panicking. My dad watched it and he's like, "You were talking the entire time. You should have just focused." He's like, "Not bad for talking the entire time." But anyway, yeah. So why can't that force that you're talking about that holds things on the flat Earth be applied to a globe?
Well, because we can't demonstrate it otherwise. I mean the only evidence that we have of a globe is that they taught us this our whole lives. And if you ever all of the data that they give us and all, especially the photographic evidence and all this stuff, is all contrary to one another. It's not uniform and consistent. It's not convincing. If you take, I think the main problem that most people have isn't. It's that the idea is so shocking and so stupid because we've all we've all been raised with the idea that we're definitely on a spinning ball. Water sticks to the outside of it, but you exist in the world as if it were a flat plane. If you're honest with yourself, everyone drives around in their car as if they're traveling on a flat plane. I mean, sure, there's hills and mountains and curves. You fly in an airplane, it doesn't feel or appear that you're flying over a huge ball. It appears that you're traveling in a straight, flat direction once you get to cruising altitude.
Now, Andy, I noticed in the last episode that your voice is very low compared to ours, and people on the chat are saying it. So if you can raise your voice, that would be great.
Sorry, the OBS
Now-
takes it in differently. Sorry about that.
Now, what SB Alj is doing here is derailing from the original question by Andy, because he's now derailing to, oh, we've been habituated to it, and this question was very precise. The force that you believe could be acting on the flat Earth, and you acknowledge that you know nothing about it. What allows you to be convinced that it could not apply on a sphere?
Well, I mean, I guess theoretically it could apply on a sphere.
Okay, theoretically
Whoa.
it could. So there's no property in your imagined version of gravity that is unapplicable on a flat Earth that would be wrapped around a ball.
Well, that's what they've given us is a theory. I just don't see any evidence for it. You guys really think that water's sticking to a ball? I don't.
But then how
We
do you
didn't
have
say that
evidence?
it was sticking.
Yeah, how do you have evidence then that on a flat Earth that there is a force that holds everything down? We could just throw the same question back at you.
Oh, I agree. I think it's a mystery that none of us have a straight answer to.
Okay, so then we are moving to a different type of debate. You are claiming that there is no more evidence for a round Earth than there is for a flat Earth. You're not claiming that you're convinced of the flat Earth. Is that it?
No, I'm absolutely well. I'm here more to cast doubt on the globe than I am to say that it's absolutely flat. I don't see any evidence of curvature. I don't see any evidence of the physics of water acting the way that they want us to believe. So, I certainly see the things that they present us as evidence as being incoherent.
But based on
So-
your previous statement, we would also conclude that you are as skeptical at the flat Earth because you recognize that any knowledge that you currently have at gravity concerning gravity is as doubtful as it explains the holding of water on a flat Earth as it does on a globe.
Sure.
And before we
All
move on
right.
to the next